And this is why I hate wet belts. It's just not necessary.
Here we have a 2016 Peugeot 208 1.2 PureTech in for a wet belt replacement. Unfortunately for this customer, the belt was already too far gone before they can even prevent the unthinkable to happen. The vehicle has only done 69,000 miles. However, there is a massive twist to this mileage. Stick around to find out, and let's get started.
Wet belts, they are so problematic. Till this day, I'm still wondering why they are still doing it. All the way to 2024 vehicles, they're still doing it. Wet belt is commonly fitted on your Ford, on your PSA, in some, I believe some Renaults. And this is new from VWs as well. That's absolutely surprising. There's absolutely no benefit to this. So there is a video, a good explanation actually, of how much you could actually save by using a wet belt instead of the conventional chain or dry belt. So with that being said, I am here today with this Peugeot 208. So this is GT line, this is with the turbo version and stuff. And it's got something very wrong with it, and it's got something to do with the wet belt. So they actually broke down when they were driving down the A41. They just broke down. I think this car's been here for like a year, I think, or something like that, and they just didn't bother fixing it. But I came here the other week. You'll probably be familiar with this place. You can see that van over there. We just replaced the clutch. Oh yeah, there's something wrong with that, majorly wrong again with that vehicle, but we're going to cover that at some point. We're going to film that next week. But let's go back to this vehicle. So with this vehicle, they broke down an A41, and I think that it's the wet belt. Let me show you. As you can see, that belt is very perished. Now, I actually checked this vehicle when we were fixing the clutch on this van right here, and it is coming up with low oil pressure code, and from the looks of that belt, it is probably the reason why it died. Don't get me wrong, it does start, but the check engine light is on, low pressure oil light is on, everything is on this vehicle. But apparently we're just driving down and it just conked out. So what we are going to do is we're going to check that wet belt. There's a special tool for it, and if it's a little bit bigger than it, if it doesn't fit, if the tool doesn't fit, then that wet belt needs to be replaced. So let's get started, let's get checking. I don't know how well you guys can see the tool, but the end, so this end, and that end, the belt should fit in between that. Now this end right here, if I was to put it in, that is already all the way in to the point where I can even drag the belt. Now if, say for example, if the tool is indicating that the belt doesn't need to be replaced because it's not swollen just yet, you should not be able to move this at all. But I can just move it left to right because, like what I said, the belt doesn't even fit in between the tool anymore. So yeah, as you can see, I can move it because the outer teeth of the tool, the tooth, sorry, is not fitting inside the belt. That's that piece, it's not fitting in there. So yeah, that definitely needs to be replaced. And let me tell you a little story about this engine as well. Believe it or not, this engine had a recall where they just have to replace the engine because of the wet belt. I don't know what they did, but the engine that's in there is only about 30,000 miles old. 30,000. Could you believe it? Right, the owner is there now. Could you believe it? 30,000 miles and you already have to replace the engine. And this is why I hate wet belts. It's just not necessary. For the 1% of fuel that you will save in a year, you're going to cost the owners of these vehicles with wet belts thousands of pounds. Absolutely atrocious. Why? I just don't understand. Anyway, enough waffling. We're going to replace that wet belt. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise the vehicle, and then we're going to remove the sump, and then we're going to see that little strainer there, see if it's blocked. I have a good feeling that it's definitely blocked.
As stupid as it sounds, yes, this engine is new. It begs the question as to why this wet belt is already perished. Is it due to poor maintenance, incorrect oil grade, or is the owner just unlucky? Looking at the state of the oil and filter, we can see that this engine oil has definitely had it. Usually, you'll find that petrol engines will have golden, brown colored oil. However, this one looks like the oil came out from a diesel engine, very dark black in color. Anyway, to inspect the oil strainer, we first have to empty the sump and undo all the bolts around the sump. Once all the bolts are off, we will then have to carefully pry the sump off the engine block, ensuring that we don't bend any part of it. Once the sump is off, we can finally check the state of the strainer.
It is not looking good for the customer. Oh my god. This is bad. Really bad. Have a look. What the is that, bro? That is absolutely grim. So that 1% fuel saving in a year is worth this. So that's what the manufacturers are telling us, people. Wow, that is absolutely insane. Oh my lord.
To do this job correctly, there are many things that we have to clean, starting from the sump strainer all the way to the vacuum pump. More on that later.
So after all that cleaning, it's not as clear, but you can see the volume of that. That is what was blocking the strainer. All that belt material, all of that is what's caused that engine to shut down. So that is not worth 1% of fuel saving for this customer. Anyone else agree with me? Why do they have to deal with that? That's not general maintenance, that's general repair. Alright, that's not maintenance anymore, that's repair. God. Manufacturers, please sort it out. Is it worth the name of your company? Is that worth the company's name? Imagine Ford, and then people think wet belt, unreliable. Peugeot, Citroen, Toyota now on some, right? They think of your name, wet belt, unreliable. Is that what you want? God, sort it out. Replace it with a chain. Goodness me, 1% is nothing. God, noise? Is it noise that you're worried about? Nothing. Right, it's nothing. Honestly. Right? You can't even hear it. You can't even tell the difference. It's quiet, but you can't tell the difference. So please, don't give me the BS that is worth the customer fixing his car now. Or for the people that have broken down and had to replace their engine because of it. Don't even try it. Just don't.
It's really not worth the hassle. Manufacturer will say that the car's emission, whilst it's working, is better for the environment. However, engines that uses wet belt can cause a lot of trouble, which in turn requires a lot of parts to be replaced, which means more manufacturing and more disposal, which by the way is also very harmful to the environment. Anyway, before we can replace the wet belt, we have to access the camshaft to lock the engine to the right timing. To do that, we first have to remove many parts such as the boost pipe, rocker cover, ignition coils, vacuum pump and a whole lot of connectors. Once that's done, it will then give us access to the camshaft, allowing us to lock the engine in place.
Okay, let's all have a look at this belt. Let's see it.
Now that we can see more of the wet belt, it is evident that it's absolutely perished. And now I can see the reason why the strainer was blocked. Cracking on the wet belt indicates that the belt is starting to stretch and has become frail. And when they become frail, that's when the wet belt starts shedding loads of the wet belt material into the oil, causing the strainer to get blocked. And most of the time, the shedding can go past the strainer and make their way around the engine, blocking oil journals such as the journal to the turbo, crankshaft and even worse, the vacuum pump. Again, more on that later. It makes me wonder, did Peugeot replace the wet belt when they replaced the engine? Or did they reuse it? If you work in one of the PSA brands, please educate us on what's involved when doing this recall and leave us a comment in the comment section down below.
Now that the wheel arch is off, next thing that we gotta do is to remove those bolts. But first, we have to remove the tension in this and obviously remove the belt as well so we can get access to the crank pulley. So let's do that. Right, now that the auxiliary belt is off, love the way that I say that sometimes, it sounds so fresh. Yeah, now that's off. What we gotta do is turn the 19mm crank And then at the bottom of the gearbox there is a hole where you could put this locking tool in. It's just right here. You can just about see it here on the exhaust side. And then I'm going to show you at the top how to lock the camshafts in place. So here is our locking tool. Now if the crankshaft is in the right place, this should just fall straight in. Yep, there you go. Happy days. So that's locked in place now, but we also have to bolt it down. Now the next thing is this one here. It goes where the vacuum pump, and also just a little tip, you got to clean that as well because there's like debris in there. You've got to clean that, otherwise they're not going to get good brakes. They're going to get stiff ass brakes. Now, okay, this is the timing tool for the exhaust cam, and that one also needs to be screwed in place. As you can see there, that's locked camshaft in place.
Now that the engine is locked in position, we can start thinking about removing the wet belt. To do that, we have to remove the crankshaft pulley, which will then give us access to remove this plastic cover that encases the tensioner and deflection pulley. Once that cover is off, we can finally remove the crankshaft bolt that holds the floating pulley in place.
Now that everything is untensioned, we can start removing components such as the wet belt tensioner. Can't believe I'm saying wet and belt at the same time on a car. Grim. Absolutely ridiculous. We'll take the crank out as well. The crank gear, that is. So that's this one here. Take that out. And now, should is the word, we should be able to get the belt out. Should. Goodness gracious me. Apologies, the camera died. And here is the belt. I'll try and zoom into that. You can see that, look. That is really bad. And on the flip side of it, you can just about see it there. That it is perished. Perished. It's gone. Done. Anyhow, so this one here is the original one from when it was rebuilt, well, when the engine was new. I don't really know how, when they say, oh yeah, we're gonna renew the engine, I don't know what they mean by that, Peugeot, right? But I think it's just the block that they renew. But as you can see here, we have got new idler, new wet belt pulley, and also we have the new belt. And as you can see here, look, I just want to show you. This is not a normal belt, right? It says there, bio, right? That stands for bio. I'm joking. I don't really know what it stands for, but it's the wet belt version, as you can see. It almost sounds like it's glass-ish, but it's not. As you can see here, if you look at the sizing difference, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but the left one, which is the old one, is a bit thicker than the one on the right, which tells me is out of spec already. Just to prove a point that it is out of spec, let's get our tool. So, new one in there, nice. Yeah, as you can see, sliding, and there's no gap. Old one, here we go, not sliding, and you can see the gap there. Look, I have to force that in so that it doesn't even want to go in, even if I was to force it. Yeah, no, don't know how well you can see on the camera, but it just won't go in. It's good to have this tool if you own one of these 1.2 PureTech engines, right? It's good to have this tool because it will tell you when it's time to replace your engine. I mean, your wet belt. Anyway, let's get this fitted now. Unfortunately, the truth of it is, what I like to do before fitting these wet belts is to put them in a tank of oil. Oh, no! No! It slipped off my hand. Ah, the belt is in there. Is in there? Oh my god, man.
Anyway, to put the belt back in, we just have to squeeze it into the tiny gap between the cylinder head and cam gears. Once the belt is fitted around the cam gears, we can then fit it around the tensioner, deflection pulley, and finally the crank gear.
Oh, everything is nice and tensioned up there now. I don't know if you can see it, but there we are perfect on that tension. That's been torqued as well, the idler. But the next thing now is we have to torque this big boy right here. So I believe it's 90 plus 180, but I will double check on that. So let's keep going. So apologies, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. There you have it. Oh, you can't even see it. There you go. Just literally just under 180, give or take. So that 50 plus 180, that thing is definitely not coming out. Blimey, I'm sweating. Look at that. That got me going. Got the heart rate pumping. That is. It's hard to do it on the floor because you can only get like few clicks because the vehicle is not up in the air, if that makes sense, where you could get more leverage. I've got literally that. But we're doing it. Let's go. The new belt is in. The timing is in. All is good. Everything looks tough. Let's keep going. We're almost there. We're almost at the end of the line, boys and girls. Right, we've got to check if we did our job right. So we've got to remove all the locking tools, so including that one and the one on the crankshaft. And I'm going to turn it 2 revolutions at the bottom. And if everything goes in, then that means we've done our job correctly. And if it doesn't, that means we have to redo the whole job, pretty much. So let's check it. Let's go. Right, moment of truth. This should just drop in place if I did it right. Yep, that's nice. And then exhaust side, looking like in the right, it's in the right place. So yep, that's perfect. Oh god, I'm happy with all of that, my friend. I am just bugging. Right, the wet belt is officially wet now because we soaked that in oil, didn't we? Now it's time to give the vacuum pump a little clean by the filter, and we're gonna do the inlet for the turbo as well. We're gonna give that a little clean for the oil because they do get blocked, and once you see that stuff, you want to be cleaning vacuum and the turbo. You clean it as much as you can, really. You bet there is wet belt material in there. Look at it. Goodness me. When this stops producing vacuum, what would happen is your brake pedal will turn stiff and then you crash. That's what these manufacturers want to happen, unfortunately, by using wet belt, because they're saving 1% of fuel for the whole year. 1%, just remember that. Emission, 1%. Ridiculous. That is what you'd get. Dangerous fault, that's what I would say. Look at it. Blimey. What is all that? Come on, man. I thought they'd know better. They're engineers. Come on, man. Corporation, eh?
Now that the wet belt is fully installed, we can finally start putting everything back together, starting from the top, such as the rocker cover. The rocker cover will need to be torqued to spec whilst following the right bolting down sequence to reduce the risk of oil leak. Once that's done, we can put the boost pipe back in place along with the coil pack, vacuum pump, high pressure fuel pump beauty cover, many vacuum lines and the 100 million connectors and clips. All that's left for us to do now is to close up the bottom end, such as the cover for the tensioner and crankshaft pulley, which I unfortunately did not record. I'm sorry for that.
Right, everyone, it is getting dark. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but it is dark. I think the camera's making it look like it's a bit lighter than what it actually is. But if you guys want one of these, by the way, link is in the description. It's on my website, so go and check it out. Here's the website here. What have we got left to do? So we've got the sump left to put back up, and then also we have the cover for the timing belt that we have to put on as well. We are getting there. I'm getting tired, man. I have 2 hours drive home. Let's go. Oh, by the way, this thing, let me show you some sick feature that it's got. Hold on. See this button here? On right now. Okay, that's off. On right now. So it's turned on. Turned off. Turned on. Turned off. Ah, sick feature. It's handy. Honestly, it is handy when you're under the car. You got 30 hands, just like that. Give it a swipe. Give it a swipe. Yeah. Anyway, we are pretty much done on this vehicular now. All that's left for me to do is to put oil in there and then put the wheel back on, and that should be done. And let's try and turn it on and see if we are gonna get the good old check oil pressure light, check engine light, and also, well, the check engine light will be on because several reasons, isn't it? So let's go. Let's try and turn it on.
Using OE quality matching parts and high performance oil that is the correct grade for the vehicle is important when working on one of these wet belts. Using the incorrect oil grade will cause premature wear on the engine and the belt, hence why we opted in for liquid moly oil and Bryanstone oil filter.
Right, moment of truth now. Christ, I'm scared about this. It is lovely, and there's no oil pressure light. Obviously there's going to be check engine light and all of that. TPMS, airbag is turned off on the passenger, but that's all about it really. And it's sticking nicely, sticking absolutely mint. Ah, listen to that. 3-cylinder, of course. Oh, it sounds lovely. That turn first time, before it was like it was struggling to turn, and now it's just purring so nicely. Ah, I love to hear it. Look at it. Right, okay, now that the vehicle's fixed, or at least the belt has been replaced, let's have a look and check what the codes are. Or shall I say what the codes were? As you can see there, inlet camshaft dephaser, so that's your solenoid. It's locked, and we have cleaned that, and same with the turbo inlet pipe filter, the ABS filter as well. As you can see here, all of the ABS data, and same there, look, that's the most important one. Too low in mechanical mode. Lubrication system, pressure not consistent with atmospheric pressure. Let's have a look at the ABS and see. Nothing much on the ABS, airbag. All is good, everything looks temporary except for a few that is like that one button backlight fault. Start, that's all intermittent because obviously the battery is low. This car has not been turned on for a very long time. Oh, and by the way, this thing here is the Eurotab 3. It's available on my website, so take a look right here. And what else is there? Voltage too low, nothing much. Cool. Apart from that, everything is all well now. Everything is temporary, as you can see there. Lubrication system, all is good. So we're gonna clear that and pass it back to the customer. Anyway, guys, if you're here, please write down in the comment section what you think about this wet belt madness, because I personally do not like it. Let me know what you think, and let's have a talk down there, shall we? Obviously I can't speak to you because you guys are behind the camera for now, but whilst you're there, you might as well click the subscribe button. So thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and we will see you, or I will see you, on the next one. Peace. Put them in a tank of oil. Oh no! No! It slipped off my hand. Ah, the belt is in there. It's in there. Oh my god, man.